Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who was adored by everyone who met her, but her grandmother loved her most of all. There was nothing her grandmother wouldn't give her. One day, she gifted the girl a little red velvet riding hood, which suited her so well that she wore it all the time. From then on, she was known as Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, her mother said to her, "Take this piece of cake and bottle of wine to your grandmother. She's ill and weak, and this will do her good. Leave before it gets too hot, and remember to walk carefully and stay on the path." Her grandmother lived deep in the forest, about half a league from the village. As soon as Little Red Riding Hood entered the woods, she met a wolf. Not knowing he was dangerous, she wasn't afraid of him. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Thank you, wolf," she replied. "Where are you off to so early?" he asked. "To my grandmother's," said Little Red Riding Hood. "And what are you carrying in your apron?" "Cake and wine. It was baking day yesterday, and poor sick grandmother is to have something nice to make her stronger." "Where does your grandmother live?" the wolf asked. "A good quarter of a league farther into the forest. Her house is under 3 large oak trees, just beyond the nut trees." "I'm sure you know it," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender little morsel. She'll be tastier than the old woman. I need to be clever to catch them both." So he walked alongside Little Red Riding Hood for a while and then said, "Look how beautiful the flowers are around here. Why don't you stop and enjoy them? And can't you hear how sweetly the birds are singing? You're walking so seriously, as if you were going to school, while the whole forest is full of fun and life." Little Red Riding Hood looked up and saw sunlight dancing through the trees and beautiful flowers blooming everywhere. She thought, "I could bring grandmother a lovely bouquet too. She'd be delighted. It's still early, so I'll have plenty of time." She left the path and wandered deeper into the forest, picking flowers. But every time she found one, she saw a prettier one farther on, so she kept going, deeper and deeper into the woods. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" called the grandmother. "It's Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, disguising his voice. "I've brought cake and wine. Please open the door." "Lift the latch," called the grandmother. "I'm too weak to get up." The wolf lifted the latch, opened the door, and without a word went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he dressed himself in her clothes, put on her cap, and lay down in bed, drawing the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, who had been busy picking flowers, suddenly remembered her grandmother and set off for her house. When she arrived, she was surprised to find the door wide open. Feeling uneasy, she said to herself, "Oh dear, why do I feel so strange today? I usually love visiting grandmother." She called out, "Good morning," but got no reply. So she walked over to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother, with her cap pulled far over her face, looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have," she said. "The better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "But grandmother, what big eyes you have, the better to see you with, my child. And grandmother, what large hands you have, the better to hug you with. Oh, but grandmother, what a huge mouth you have, the better to eat you with," growled the wolf. And with that, he leaped out of bed and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood in one gulp. With his hunger satisfied, the wolf lay back down in the bed and fell asleep, snoring loudly. A passing huntsman heard the noise and thought, "How loudly the old woman is snoring. I better check if she needs anything." He stepped into the house, and when he reached the bed, he he saw the wolf lying there. "Ah, I've found you, old sinner," he exclaimed. "I've been hunting you for a long time." He raised his gun to shoot, but then thought, wait, the grandmother might still be alive inside. So instead of shooting, he took a pair of scissors and began cutting open the wolf's belly. After a few snips, he saw a flash of red, and soon Little Red Riding Hood popped out, crying, "Oh, how scared I was! It was so dark inside the wolf." Then the grandmother emerged as well, still alive, but barely able to breathe. Little Red Riding Hood quickly fetched some large stones, and they filled the wolf's belly with them. When he awoke, he tried to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed and died on the spot. All three were overjoyed. The huntsman took the wolf's skin as a trophy. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine, and Little Red Riding Hood promised herself, "As long as I live, I'll never stray from the path again when my mother has told me not to."